Let's head out to the Plains. Talk to my guy, Jeffrey Lee of AuburnLive.com. And Auburn's having a 5-star visit weekend. We got wide receiver Cedarian Morgan, Braylon Womack, Xavier Crowwell. And then they brought in a bunch of committed targets. Devin Carter there is committed, but we're going to talk about him too, because that one's getting dicey. But let's start with the big dog, wide receiver Cedarian Morgan. Jeffrey Lee, what are you hearing on Auburn?
Well, I've heard a lot. I talked to Cedarian less than an hour ago, and he said everything that you would want him to say if you're an Auburn fan. He's got the relationships there with Marcus Davis, with Hugh Freeze. They've been on him since he was a freshman. He's got the ends on the roster with Malcolm Simmons and Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman. I think he's big with Deuce Knight. He mentioned Deuce Knight, spending a lot of time with Deuce Knight this weekend. He's going to Alabama next weekend, Josh, which probably doesn't bode well for Auburn. I think Alabama's been viewed as the kind of the team to beat, maybe the presumed leader for him for a while now. And Bama getting him for that last visit before he announces probably doesn't bode well for Auburn, but I don't think it's going to be over. We talked about last weekend, Josh, that Auburn's probably going to have a better flip season than they do commit season. So I think I think he's one of those. I don't expect him to choose Auburn, although I think Auburn's right there in it. I think Auburn has a better chance to flip him than they do get a commitment from him in the summer.
All right. How about Braylon Womack and Xavier Crowwell? Womack from Mississippi, Xavier Crowwell, another in-state target. We've kind of talked Auburn visit weekends, and like you said, flip season is going to be more exciting than commitment season, which we're kind of in the middle of right now. But when it comes to Auburn recruiting, both these guys are in the South, deep South. Who do they have a better shot at, Crowwell or Womack?
I would put Crowwell in the same category as Cedarian Morgan. He's another guy I expect. I think he's going to commit June the 26th. So what's that, Tuesday week, as we would say in the deep South? And that's right after an official visit to Alabama. He and Cedarian Morgan both are going on OVs next week.
Very telling.
So, right, exactly. So I fully expect Crowwell to commit to Alabama and Auburn to continue to push for a flip. Now, I think it's a different story with Braylon Womack. Auburn has been and continues to be very, very big in his recruitment. His sister plays softball here at Auburn. He's been here many, many times. You can look at his profile on On3, and the amount of visits that are actually checked it's a fraction of what he's actually been here with his parents to every softball game that they could get to. And he said this weekend, I talked to him less than an hour ago. This weekend was his best official visit so far. It was more relaxed. He's very comfortable here. He's very familiar with all the coaches. He just got to enjoy himself this weekend and feel like home. Now, he's got a trip to Ohio State scheduled next weekend, and he's going to announce on August the 22nd. But I really like Auburn right now. Ask me again next weekend after his Ohio State visit. Maybe I feel differently. But after this weekend, Josh, I really like where Auburn, a lot better standing with Braylon Womack than I think with Xavier Crowwell. All
right, now let's talk about committed wide receiver Devin Carter. We're going to get into him in a minute, but Auburn fans, make sure you guys hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. Now, Devin Carter has been committed pretty solid, but last weekend, seeing him and his family show up at Florida State, where his dad was a star at in the late 80s. I mean, how should Auburn fans look at this Devin Carter recruitment, or did things solidify over the weekend?
Solidified. I was very impressed with Devin Carter and the way he handled the interview. I mean, I just talked to him maybe 10 minutes ago. He's actually leaving now. But he used the term, I'm locked in. Nice. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. And I asked him, I said, well, do you feel better about your Auburn commitment now, more so now than you did after Florida State? He said, no, not really. I felt Auburn is the right decision for me. I felt it even after Florida State. He said, I've got connections to Florida State and always will, but I felt like Auburn was home for me back in January. I feel like Auburn is home for me right now. I'm locked in. He got to spend a lot of time with Deuce Knight this weekend. All these wide receivers did. Really loves Deuce Knight, really loves the future at Auburn under Deuce Knight, and I feel like that was a big deal. So I feel really, really good about Auburn's, holding on to Devin Carter, especially after the interview, the interview that we had with him prior to leaving.
All right. Before I let you go, let's talk a little quarterback recruiting. Is Landon Duckworth He's going to make his decision probably in the next month or so. Is he emerging as Auburn's top target here?
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. And I think this was decided in the last few weeks. I didn't know if Auburn was going to get in the game with him NIL wise, because they had just bought.
Pretty nice shiny toy there in Deuce Knight.
And Deuce Knight. And don't forget about Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels. They got 2 quarterbacks out of the portal, where we all know nothing is cheap in the portal, especially quarterbacks. So they took 2 quarterbacks in the offseason out of the portal. One, Jackson Arnold, where it's been reported, I think, by Pete Nakos that, we're talking 7 figures for that guy. And then Deuce Knight certainly wasn't, a 5-star quarterback out of high school, certainly not going to be cheap either. So the question was, is Auburn willing to spend more money on a 2026 guy, or would they take a year off, maybe take a developmental guy, maybe go for a big guy in 2027? But I think the decision was made in the last few weeks that, yes, Auburn wants to push for a top 2026 guy, keep that room loaded, keep that room stacked, keep continuing to stack depth in there. And, brought him in for an official visit last weekend. And then on Friday, actually he came in on Thursday night, brought him back for an unofficial visit. I think it was a 2-night visit, and really are putting their foot forward in his recruitment. And it's just Auburn and South Carolina at this point, a school that he was committed to before. And I think he's going to try to get back out to South Carolina before announcing his decision, but it's going to be tough with logistically. He's got the California Elite 11 next weekend. So it's going to be it might bode well for Auburn. They're getting this last visit, and it was very productive. He had a lot of good things to say about Auburn, and I think Auburn's actually going to be more invested in him in more ways than one moving forward.
Love to hear it. All right, Jeffrey Lee, Auburn Live. You guys are doing a great job of tracking the weekend's visits. Already got updates on most of these guys. Go check it out. Appreciate you dropping by this live edition of the Inside Scoop.
Absolutely, Josh. Thanks for having me.